Hello everyone, welcome back to our video lecture. And we're still on the scopes of psychology, but we're going to discuss and proceed on the branches of psychology. Again, I'm Mr. Philip Sintin Siloterio. I'm your course instructor for this course, and we're going to discuss the branches of psychology. For the branches of psychology, we have here the clinical psychology, educational psychology, industrial psychology, psychometrics, abnormal, counseling, comparative, developmental, health, personality, social, sports, forensic, business, consumer, experimental, physiological, and school psychology. So now you already know that we have a wide range of branches and scope for the psychology as a study. Now, let's proceed with abnormal psychology. When we talk about abnormal psychology, we deal with the psychopathology and abnormal behavior. And the focus is on the level of distress or disruption that is a behavior which is causing. And those who work directly in this field are counselors, clinical psychologists, and psychotherapists. Next, we have here the personality psychology. This studies personality and what makes personality unique in each person. As we can say that we are unique and we are different from each other, and we study the differences of our personality from each other. And it explores individual differences as a behavior. And it focuses in understanding the attitude of the individual as well as his or her psychological processes that forms behavior from history to the present. What makes up a person of who or what he is or they are in the present. Next, for the clinical psychology, it is concerned with the evaluation and management or treatment of various mental problems and diagnose and treat emotional and behavioral disorders that range from mild to very severe. And it focuses on the mental illnesses, abnormal behavior, and psychiatric problems. And it deals with the therapeutic approaches. Now, for the counseling psychology, it provides therapy and it helps clients who suffer from mental illness, psychological distress, and coping problems regarding day-to-day activities. So it provides help with milder problems of social and emotional adjustments, and it focuses on improving personal performance by looking into issues like social, emotional, educational, health, developmental, family, and work-related matters. So counseling psychology is actually a wide range, and it somehow interlaps or overlaps with other branches of psychology as it is being used as a tool of communication and therapy. Next, we have here the health psychology, and it looks into behavioral and psychological factors. It's only factors that affects overall physical well-being that subsequently resulted into a medical condition. So focuses on how mental processes influence health and illnesses, as well as the attempts to understand how people react, cope, and recover from illnesses. Next, we have here educational psychology, and it involved in the study of how people learn, including areas like student performance, outcomes, the instructional or teaching process, the differences in the individual learning and gifted learners, and learning disabilities. It is all covered. And aside from learning, it is the branch of psychology is also involved in the study of social, emotional, cognitive, and processes involved in learning throughout a person's lifetime. Next, we have here the school psychology, and it is a discipline that combines the elements of clinical and educational psychology that aims to help students overcome difficulty in learning or behavioral problems that impede learning as well as interfere in the learning process. And the focus of this is to improve students' academic performance as well as their social, behavioral, and emotional well-being in relation to the school and the different school setting. Next, for the developmental psychology, it is a field in psychology that it studies the age-related changes occurring in human beings. This studies also human development from birth to old age, or entire lifespan of development of a human person. This study, or this includes the child psychology, adolescent psychology, and geriatric psychology for the old ones. Now, next we have here sports psychology. This is how psychology can influence and improve performance in sports, athletics, exercise, and in any physical ability. And it focuses on how the mind works and influences the person's performance in sports or any physical activity. That's why if you're watching NBA and other national sports, the very famous sports, they have actually sports psychologists who are helping them on their performances. Next, social psychology aims to explain how society affects the behavior, thinking, and emotions of an individual. It also studies societal behavior, like how groups of people interact and think. Just like how we think right now, how different we are this generation from before, and focuses on group behavior, social perception, leadership, behavior among groups or peers, conformity, aggression, prejudice, and other societal influences on behavior. Next, industrial and organizational psychology. Industrial and or organizational psychology. It is a branch of psychology that utilizes psychological theories and principles to organizations dealing with human resources, administration, management, as well as sales and marketing problems. It focuses on in the training and development of workers on all levels, involved designing procedures as well as equipments that could maximize performance. Next, psychometrics is the field of study that concerned with theories and techniques involving psychological measurement and testing. And this field designs, administers, and interprets quantitative tests that measure psychological variables like intelligence, aptitude, and other mental-based abilities. So in psychometrics, it is the field which measures the capacity of the brain or the mind, and in different points like intelligence, aptitude, and other mental-based abilities. Next, comparative psychology. It is the study which deals with the study of animal behavior and utilizes the comparative method to study the behavior or organisms like bacteria, plants, animals, and humans. So the focus of this is to study and understand evolutionary relationships by comparing what is similar to the different among the different species. Next, forensic psychology. This is more famous on the investigation and also the police investigations, especially the FBI and NBI. This is the application of clinical specialties in psychology in the criminal justice system. And it focuses on the psychological assessment, treatment, and evaluation of individual who is involved in the legal system or the other way around. Next, business psychology. It is the field in psychology that applies the knowledge and skills of clinical psychology in psychologically relevant business concerns. This helps those who run a business form a more productive team in a positive way. It is how they form the business. And in connection to the business psychology is the consumer psychology. This is a study of mental processes of individuals or groups of people when it comes to spending, how they wanted to spend their money. It attempts to explain what and why people or groups of people spend money on particular product or services. And that's how it is connected with the business psychology. And for the next one, it is the experimental psychology, and it's very one of the most important branch in psychology. And it is the area in psychology that studies the mind and behavior in relation to learning using scientific methods. And it attempts to explain the activities of humans and animals and the mental processes of each by manipulating variables or factors that could form behavior and studies to prove hypotheses with variables through experimentation. Next is the Physiological Psychology, and this studies the physiological aspects or foundations of the brain and of the nervous system which affects human behavior. It focuses to the main parts of the brain and the neurological reactions in the body. And in relation to this, the research also covers perception, motivation, emotion, learning, memory, cognition, or mental disorders. And these are actually studying the neurotransmitters and the neurons here inside the brain, how it reacts and interacts all over our body. The internal aspect explaining the external behavior that we are imposing. Now, what is the purpose of me discussing these branches of psychology? Because most of these branches of psychology we're going to encounter as you grow here in this psychology course, and in the near future you're going to discuss this one by one in an in-depth manner, so that you're going to be learned enough to be called as a psychology professional in the near future. And for me, in order for I'm going to discuss to you also the different fields in the field of psychology professionals evident here in the Philippines that you might be in the future. And these are the psychometrician, psychologist, and psychiatrist. So let's discuss the differences between these three. First, for the psychometrician, these are the bachelor's degree graduate in psychology, and they pass the licensure examination for psychometrician. Now, what's their duties? These are psychological assessment, administration, and interpretation of level B psychological test. Next, for the psychologist, these are the graduates of bachelor's degree in psychology. There are instances that are not, but most preferably psychology, and a graduate of graduate school or postgraduate program in psychology, and pass the licensure examination for psychologists. And what are their duties? These are to study client psychological concerns, psychotherapy, and treatment depending on the field of expertise. Next, we have here the psychiatrists. They are most likely bachelor's degree graduate in any course, any preparatory, and a graduate of medical school program, a licensed medical doctor, a graduate of 2-year specialization for psychiatry, pass the licensure examination for psychiatrists. And mostly the same with psychologists, but difference is that they prescribe medications because they are medical doctors. So, I guess that's all for the branches of psychology. And thank you for listening. Please do read the materials provided below. See you on the next video lecture. See ya!